Hello everyone, this is Jóhann from Flowcore. Today I'll be explaining how organizations work, as well as how you set up your own organization within the Flowcore platform. Now bear in mind that the platform is still under development, so things could potentially change in the future, but we'll make sure to cover that if and when that happens. If we want to go look at the current organizations that already exist, which are always publicly available, as you can see, we're not signed in at the moment, so they're always publicly available. And what you can do is essentially look up a small description of that organization, as well as if they have provided a website, then you can look into that. And then it also shows all the contributors that have been added to this organization so they can collaborate. And then any public data cores that they may have exposed out to the public. So for example, one could be weather data, for example. So if the company specifically wanted to make this data publicly available for anyone to look into, then they could make a public data core which would be available for everyone. But without further ado, let's just log in. Now, as you can see here, we support GitHub only at the moment. And you can log in with username and email as well as password, but it's only if you've specifically been given it from Flowcore. So I would just recommend using GitHub because that's the one I use. And I'm in. Now, if you have never logged into Flowcore before, you might be getting a setup page first, like a setup pop-up thing. Just let that run through and then press continue. This will just set up your entire account, so it links up with everything correctly. And if you don't have a GitHub account, then I recommend you set one up, and I will put a link in the description on how you set up a GitHub account. It's fairly straightforward, so it shouldn't be an issue. But as you can see, we're currently logged in with this amazing username. So let's just hop in organizations. And now you can see the organizations that I have. Now this is the one I just logged in with. We'll just look at that one. Now, as you can see, I get a few options. For example, I can edit my organization, which will let me set the display name, as well as give maybe a brief description of what this organization stands for. And if I had a website, I could link to that as well. And then you can see your current plan. And this plan will have different tiers with different prices, as well as different benefits, depending on which one you get. Now, what specifically adapters and read models and all that stuff is all the way down, we'll get to later in a later video. So for now, just know that there are limitations on the various plans. So we can just hop in real quick to look at some. So we currently have 4 tiers. The free one is what essentially you'd use if you're just a solo developer or a solo researcher and you just want to play around and maybe have some data that's relevant to you as well as the public, but you don't really want to profit off it in any way, because it gives you, as you can see here, unlimited public data cores. And then you can go up to Pro, which makes it a little bit more like company focused, where you would have private data cores for data that's that you would prefer to have yourself with no one else has access to it. And then once you grow, you could go into Team, which will allow you to have multiple collaborators. So if you're a team, this would make sense for you. And then if you're a large organization, then we recommend the custom one, because then you get dedicated support as well as more dedicated resources. So you're guaranteed to always run perfectly fine. And then as many others, we have the option for a yearly or monthly plan, depending on your needs. And then finally, we have something called an API keys at the bottom here. We'll get to that once we start sending data into our data core. So we'll cover that in a later video, but just note that it's in here. Again, this is subject to change, so we'll make sure to cover that once that happens. So if we just hop back right here, as you can see, I am the owner of this organization, and I have 0 public data cores at the moment, and I have 0 private. So this means that I would have to, for example, press create data core, and then go through the process of creating a data core, which we'll do in the next video. One thing to note with organizations is that your user, the user you log in with, is that the user is an organization. For example, a very common use case would be that you log in as a user, and you would have a free tier because it's just your personal organization essentially. So it's just you as a person. So you probably wouldn't just go straight pro, especially if you had a company. So instead, what you do is that you would log in, and this would mean that the organization will be created, and then you go into new organization. then you would create your organization. So in, for example, Flowcore YouTube example, and create your organization. Now, as you can see, I already created one right here. So if we tap on that one, then you can see this essentially functions the exact same way. It's just another organization. Now, since I created it, it means I am the sole owner of this organization. So if I had, for example, a team plan, so if I had this one, I would be able to go in here, press invite, and invite some other member to join this organization. Now, again, you're completely free to do it in any way you feel like. For example, you could just upgrade this one to a team plan. So going there and pressing that one, and then just invite people to your, in quotes, private one. So that is one option that you could do. But just bear in mind that organizations and users are linked. So when you log in, you generate your own private organization that matches your username. So if you want to organize a little bit more, you could just create a separate organization and then have like payments going through that, and then have your own private one where you would just, mess about and see what's what. If, for example, you didn't want people having access to your information. But yeah, so that's just a small caveat that you have to consider, that all organizations and users are linked. But besides that, I think that's pretty much it covered for organizations. And in the next video, we'll start looking into like how data cores work, as well as how you get data into these data cores. So I think I'll just say thanks for now, and I'll see you in the next one.